coming in at some point there, so we could, when she's ready, she can jump in. I had sent out notes for our previous meeting. I don't know if anyone had any thoughts or concerns about the notes of the previous meeting. I love it. That sounds like a no. No objections. Okay. I know we've had several grants and projects are in the works. Thought maybe we'd run through the main branch items first, and then go to the Lansingburg branch items, and sort of get an update on those, where they are. The main branch, I know the north wall and the east wall, we have been looking at trying to get some work bid there for some reconstruction work. Asbestos was discovered, so I had to sort of reevaluate that a little bit, and I think there had been a variance that was being applied for. So Paul, can you give us an update on where we stand with the variance application and the bids?
Which one now?
This is the north wall and the east wall reconstruction, masonry reconstruction, exterior.
Okay, we're still waiting. Oh, we need a variance, as I explained, because of the, we have to kind of work around some of the hazardous materials. So we need a variance from the Labor Department. It's pretty standard issue stuff. It was estimated that we should receive that by the end of September. So I haven't heard anyway, one way or the other at this point.
Okay.
Hopefully it will be, on time at the end of September. We can get this thing bid and started.
So we haven't put it out to bid yet?
No, well, we did, but we took it back.
Right.
Again, because of the, hazardous material question.
Yep. Okay.
Now,
okay.
I'm saying too, of course, we have the new grant.
So we could jump that and just, we want to jump that right now, the $15,000 grant, is that what you're referring to? Or are you referring to the public library construction grant?
The public library construction grant, the new one.
Okay, before we jump to that, can we touch base on the SHPO and the Historic Structures Report grant?
I'm sorry.
We had the grant from SHPO to do the Historic Structures Report, and we had to sign the contract. Has that been signed?
Yeah, no, it has not been signed. I'm going to have to keep working on that. I haven't had time to get it signed.
Okay, I sounded like we were pretty close last month there. So I think that, is there something that we could help you with in terms of getting that signed? Is there an obstacle that is creating challenges?
No, I just have to get on with their help line and figure it out to where we are. I contacted Danielle, and she didn't know anything more about it other than, she supplied me. I had asked for some details on that grant that I didn't have, and she just gave me the grant number, which I already had, and I've already tried to put that in. To the website, it just doesn't go anywhere.
So it's an issue about maneuvering through the SHPO website?
It's not SHPO, it's New York State. It's a New York State website. This is all part of the Consolidated Grant Program, so it has its own process.
Sure.
So every department goes through this bizarre process. So no, I just have to work on that and get it done somehow.
If there's anything we can do to help out, please let us know. I think it is.
Yeah.
Would be very valuable to be able to
mainly get online with their help people and figure this thing out. I don't know why they make it so obtuse, but they do.
Yeah, it's a bureaucracy, and it's Byzantine for sure. I I don't, I agree. I've seen parts of it, and unfortunately I've not seen this particular part. Otherwise I would offer to advise you, but I have no advice to offer, unfortunately. But I think we do need to find somebody who can help us out with this here, so we can get this off a dime and move this along, because this structures report will be a lengthy process, and we haven't started step one yet, so it's a challenge.
Plus, we've also signed the contract for the other component of the Preserve New York. Whoops, sorry, shouldn't have said that. That we need to, that's for a year's period. So it would be good to be able to pull in the CFA so we could get started.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be useful, Paul, for me to talk to somebody who's been through this?
It can't hurt.
Because we know people who have.
Yeah, I guess it's just this bizarre consolidated funding website that's I just can't quite figure out.
Sort of like you have to register to be eligible to receive the grant. Is that what it is?
Well, we're registered. As a matter of fact, I get in under our name. So we're actually registered. And it gives me the tasks. I'm supposed to sign the agreement. That's my task. It just won't go any further. But like I said, I guess I gotta sit down with the help desk and figure it out.
So it's the technical help desk?
Yeah, they have a help line. I'm not sure, I've never used it, so it should be interesting.
Well, and if we know somebody who's done this here before, then that may be valuable to have that, someone who could sort of walk us through that process.
And maybe try doing it. This is gonna sound stupid, but try it in another browser.
Yeah.
Only because I do help desk stuff a lot, and a lot of applications we have only work with Chrome, and some only work with Internet Explorer.
That is a possibility. I was using Firefox, so that may be a possibility.
Firefox is usually good, but it can't hurt to switch.
Sure.
That's a good idea.
Sure.
Michelle. While we're on this topic, I've not heard anything back from about when the other grant is going to be publicized. I'll let you know if I do.
That was an item on the next item on the agenda, actually. So you're very timely on that. So it's not been announced yet. So we still need to be circumspect.
They seem to indicate that it should be soon.
Okay. Well, for the government or various organizations, some of these soon is a relative term. So it's we'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll keep our eyes open. But it shouldn't change our timeline, and we just have to be careful how we speak about these things. Okay. Then that brings us then to the public library construction grant and the Upper Hudson Library Association grant. I think SHPO had some comments on that, Paul.
Yes, this is what I call the floor and ceiling grant. They have not finally signed off on this. So technically, the grant has been submitted and has been approved by Upper Hudson, but I haven't submitted SHPO's approval, which is required in our case. And I've been working with this Wesley. It's been a little bit difficult because he's not reachable by phone. So we go back and forth with things, you know, which would have been solved much more easily on the phone. But I have filed, you know, I talked to you, Kirsten, too, and I have filed more paperwork, more photographs. We already had photographs, but I filed some more. And also that assurance, you know, that we discussed about the fact that we were, you know, our goal is to restore that area historically. You know, we had some concern about the plaster, and I assured him there's very little of the cornice that needs to be repaired. So that was another picture I sent, you know. And the rest of the cornice on the other 3 vents are in pretty good shape. So I reassured him with all that, and I'm waiting for his hopefully final response. But everything goes to the state on October 10th, so this has to be there. I don't think he ever intended that. There's actually 2 letters that they sent already. And the letter is what we send in, the grant. But I don't think he ever intended that last letter to be part of the grant yet. So anyway, but I have submitted letters from SHPO that said, you know, keep us informed, we have an ongoing concern, and that was it. They did completely sign off on the floor in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it's an ongoing saga that I hope to hear back from him. Like I said, I sent an email, asked him to call me, and can't
Yeah.
reach my phone.
Yeah.
And all these people at SHPO, they're not there. So you can't call SHPO and, you know, talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And they once you send them something, they've got 30 days to respond to it. So automatically they have another month. So they're interested in historical perspectives, and they're not necessarily interested in short-term deadlines. So that they're a little bit at cross purposes. You say October 10th, we have to, hello, Evelyn.
Hello, sorry I'm late.
No worries. We were just talking about public library construction grant and SHPO commentary and trying to get through the SHPO process. Paul, you had mentioned the October 10th date, and could you remind me again what that date is for?
What's that?
What happens on October 10th?
Oh, well, the process again is we submit our grant and it goes not to the state, but to Upper Hudson. Okay, Upper Hudson then divides up the funding that they have between the libraries who have applied for grant support. So that's done, and Upper Hudson has approved us for actually $65,454. So our match in this case would be $29,696, which is well within you know, the funding that we have available. So that's already done. Then that goes, then the deadline, the state deadline that Upper Hudson meets is the next deadline. All of their grant applications then go to the state on October 10th. So that's a final drop dead date for us.
So I think I hear that we have to formally accept the grant that Upper Hudson's suggests as recommending us for, and we need to do that by October 10th.
Yeah, we need that letter from SHPO by then. Other than that, I'll just send the letter I have, which, you know, probably would work, but I would like them to sign off on this completely.
Sure.
So anyway.
So I just heard you say 2 different things. You Kirsten, you seem to be saying we have to accept it by the 10th, where Paul was saying we need the sign off from SHPO by the 10th.
I think it's both. Or we need to send something to the state on October 10th. And we'd like to send Upper
What?
Hudson's,
We say something to Upper Hudson. Once we've got notification of their decision, we say to them whether, we accept that grant. Because we only got 69%, not 75%. So the question to us is, can we still accept that grant? Once it goes to the state, it's much more difficult to back out of it, but it still can be done.
so that notification that happens on October 10th goes to Upper Hudson and then on to New York State, if I understand
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, so our meeting, our next board meeting isn't until October 13th, is that correct? I'm
Right,
saying,
or something like that.
I'm saying that by memory, so I could look it up. But so the board won't be able to approve it until then.
Right.
So is that a problem?
I don't see that as a problem. I think the board has already approved the grant application. And we
you mentioned-
received, we received 69% rather than 75%, which is only a difference of about $6,000. And we do have that amount available to us in the undesignated construction grant funds. So, I don't think there's an issue unless you think that the board should meet, before then.
Well, I was actually thinking perhaps that the building committee should vote on it.
Well, yes, that we could do too.
Or what about finance? We could add that to a quick agenda, and we could, if you really felt it needed to be done, have a special meeting of the board. It's just another suggestion.
I think we as the building committee can say we're supportive of it, but I don't know that we have the mandate to say whether the funding is appropriate or whether we've got the money available. So I think that sounds like it falls into the finance group. Does that make sense to everybody?
Makes sense to me.
I don't think that the finance committee is as knowledgeable about the workings of the finance regarding the building as this committee is.
But is it knowledgeable, or is it in what purview does any particular process fall into?
I can always talk about whether I think it's a good value for money. I just don't know whether we have the money available. That's where
It doesn't mean we shouldn't vote on and say, thumbs up, go for it. And besides, who knows if Paul, have you heard anything about any of the other libraries relinquishing their grant?
No?
Okay. Which has happened.
And if they were to do that, then more money might become available for our grant and our award could go up.
It could happen. And I think it will, but it has happened and could happen.
Got it.
Yeah, I think this in the process, if we say something now to Upper Hudson, say, well, no, we'll turn down the grant, then they have $65,000 to redistribute among Upper Hudson libraries.
Yep.
But if it goes to the state, and a year down the road, we say we can't do this project, the money, I think, goes into a bigger state pot.
Right.
Well, Upper Hudson the Upper Hudson board tries very hard to keep it within the Upper Hudson Bank.
Sure.
You know, we've created a way of making sure that happens. Plus, the libraries, no library at our amount was given the money at the full 25.75. Several of us were at 69. I mean, it's all in that attachment I sent. So the other libraries who are at 69 but should be at 75 would then probably share equally. That would be my guess on how it would be spread out.
I'm going to propose a draft motion for consideration. That motion would be that we as the building committee would be supportive of accepting this grant subject to confirmation that required funds are available.
Well, and we've really seen that in the documents that I've shown in the past as to what is available from the undesignated construction account.
Okay. So,
I think it sounds good. I think the way you said it sounds perfect.
Well, with this grant, our matching obligations would be about 176,805. Now that does not include, though, the extra money that Marie got through
For the historic structure report?
So actually you could take 15,000 off of that. And that would be our, obligations today for matching funds. And, right now there's 204,000 in the undesignated construction account. So you're in pretty good shape.
okay. So, people comfortable with that motion? Anybody want to second that?
Evelyn seconds.
Okay, looks like Evelyn is second there. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Any objections? Any abstentions?
No.
Okay. Motion
Well-
carries.
While we're on this topic, Evelyn did bring up the issue of the fact that we don't necessarily get to have only a 10% match, and how we felt, about that. Is that something we want to discuss now?
It might be something we want to look at next year when we see how much money Upper Hudson received from the state for the entirety, and then decide how to strategize the actual bid for the grant. Whether or not we want to do it so it comes into the 90-10, or whether we have a project that's, sometimes you just have to say, oh, well, too bad, I wish we could, but it's not worth it.
I thought, thinking about this after you brought it up, Evelyn, that when I looked at what we received, that even though it was costing us a little bit more money, that it was still worth it in terms of what we got.
Exactly. Sometimes you just have to go with that, because we wouldn't have been able to do one of those projects. This way, sometimes you just have to say, it would have been nice getting it at a 10% match. But, and who knows? Do I really think the state's going to reinstate a larger pot of money next year? I don't know. I have my doubts. Or if they do increase it, it might not be where it was last year. But once we know that number, then you can strategize in how you want to go about it. And what we have too in the piggy bank at the library, if we only have so much for match, then we might not be able to go after something bigger. And then we might have to suffice with the 90-10 and a project that comes under under those guidelines.
But if I'm not mistaken, it would have had to be under 44,000, is that correct?
Pretty much. And again, it's 44,400 and some odd dollars because that would have been 10% of the total amount. Da, 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 da. And who knows? The Upper Hudson Board could actually, what again, dividing up what is Upper Hudson Board's criteria versus what the state's legislative criteria are is something you have to look at both pieces of that in making that decision. Upper Hudson's Board they're already talking about, how do I want to put this? Re-examining the criteria. But then there are certain things that are legislatively mandated too. We'll just have to see next year. So personally, I think talking about it now, it's good to think about it, but keep it in mind for next year, not, get into the discussion at this point because it's not going to matter until we know the amounts and the rules. That's just my thinking.
It's a factor to consider, you're saying.
Exactly. Just keep this in mind as we go forward.
Okay. One other thing, Paul, I suggest maybe helpful, and that could be that when you communicated with Weston Davies at SHPO, I don't know if you mentioned the firms that we are looking at for the historic structures report. I think you mentioned that we would be working with a historic firm. It may be worth letting him know that we are looking at 3 specific firms, and he should be very familiar with their track record. So if you mentioned them by name of the 3 firms that we're looking at, that probably would be helpful, or may put his mind at ease. And then also to let him know about our timelines and the need to get a response back from him. And then I would try and reach out to him every day in some way.
I'm confused because are we talking about 2 different projects? Aren't we talking about Wesley in relation to this construction grant that was just received?
Yes.
And the 3 firms, or 4, were in relation to the historic structure report.
Yeah. Concern is that we proceed with this project, with historic concern for the building. We've worked with SHPO for the last 50 years. I mean, we have a reputation of, doing this correctly, and I've never worked with Wesley before, and it's kind of surprising, all of the questions, but I've tried to answer them so far.
Yeah, he's a bureaucrat, and he wants to make sure that the right boxes are checked, and
I guess.
the more information we can give him that will help put his mind at ease. He's concerned, Marie, because we're proposing to do work on the reading room, which is, of course, a very public space in a historic building. And he wants to make sure that we're not going to be working willy-nilly and damaging historic fabric. So he wants to see plans and details, or he's implying he wants to see that sort of stuff. So
I just don't understand the connection with the architectural firms that are associated with the historic structure report. Was the link that we are indicating that we would get their input as to exactly how the work on the reading room progresses as part of the historic structure report? I just don't see the connection.
we would get their advice.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Anything further on the main branch we want to talk about today?
I don't think so. Can't think of anything.
Okay. Then if we move to the Lansingburg branch. I know we've had a few things that are in the works at various stages there. One being the cupola, and DASNY had some comments about that previously. I know there was some correspondence back and forth. Is there any update on that from DASNY? Is that resolved, put to bed?
Yeah, yeah, there's been no more inquiries. As a matter of fact, we should see the funding, 90% of that funding at the end of November. So that will be in our restricted account going forward. Once we do receive that funding, of course, we can get that job bid. That should be pretty much simple and straightforward.
And so you think it said end of November?
Yeah, end of November, we should see the funding on that.
So we would bid the work then over the winter in anticipation of doing the work then in the spring.
Yeah, I think we can do it that way. I think we'd probably like to know right away as soon as we can. You know,
Sure,
get
sure.
it in.
You know, bidding in late November or December, January for work in the spring, that should be advantageous. You know, I think you'll find a lot of contractors looking for work. And so that could be a good time to do that. So that sounds positive. Great. And then the final piece then was the Wainscott flood repair. And I know the insurance company had some questions that they were digging into. And any update on that?
There's nothing more. The insurance company has pretty much decided that's the end of that. So they'll be sending us a check, which is not very much. I don't have the figures in front of me, Kristen. It's
Yeah.
our deductible is something like, our deductible on that is $2,500 anyway. So we'll get about, I think, 3,000 or 4,000 for that project. And we'll have to figure out where to get the rest of the money.
Okay.
Or maybe change the project around a little bit.
So so we just have to accept that?
At this point, I guess, I don't know, you know, I don't know any other way around it at this point.
Have we had any experience with this insurance company before as far as settling claims?
Let me think. Not this particular company, no. Not that I know.
So does this indicate that we should check out other potential insurance companies? That the claim is so different than
Yeah,
what?
I'm not happy with them, no. I mean, you know, it's like, although I'm not happy with insurance in general, but this is not unusual for insurance companies. I mean, that's what they do. They try to get out of paying you.
Mhm.
That's their business. This one, yeah, it's pretty annoying, I guess. But we actually are, this company we are in contact with through our agent, Rose and Kiernan. Yeah, they can, we can get bids and so on from other insurance companies. That doesn't fall due normally until June.
Well, we can start looking at that now. That might actually, you know, at least.
We have done bids before for liability, and so far nobody's come in under, you know.
Are we required to take the lowest bid? Is that something that would be expected? And again, I apologize. I don't know how the procurement process is done for these sorts of services. Do we have to take the lowest bid on an insurance proposal?
What's that?
Do we have to accept the lowest bid?
No, you don't. We have a history of accepting the lowest usually anyway.
Sure, sure.
These things can jump around quite a bit.
Yeah.
But no, there's no reason not to bid this every once in a while anyway.
I know generally we're happy with our insurance company that we have our homeowners and car insurance with. But yeah, I don't know, maybe we're paying a premium in advance and therefore that's why they don't give us a hard time when we make a claim. So, it's a trade-off. And so if it's a significant difference, then it may not be worthwhile. Maybe you just,
I don't know, there's a question too. I mean, we probably should ask ourselves. I mean, we have high deductibles on everything. I mean, I think at Maine, I don't know, I'd have to look them up. One of them is like 5,000. So the deductibles are very high. And, that brings the cost of insurance down. But then you have one of these and of course, then
so
deductible kicks in.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. I mean, to me, this company, I recently, last year, had a problem with, when I hit a deer. So the car was, there was a lot of damage to the car, like $4,000 or $5,000 of damage. I had, 500 deductible, and they paid the rest, and they fixed it properly. That's what you kind of want from your insurance company. This one didn't operate that way.
No. Paul, I think I think I heard you say that they're going to write a check and then we're going to have the work done. Is that what I heard?
What? Yeah, they were basically, the last I heard from the agent, they were going to send a check.
So we've not had the work done yet.
No, because they don't have the check.
I misunderstood this. I thought that we'd already had the work done and we're trying to get reimbursed for monies we'd already spent.
No.
So I think if that's the case, we do have one more option that we could do, and that would be to get 2 more quotes.
Yeah, I was gonna, pretty much get more quotes anyway before we did the work.
So I think if we could do that, I think one of the I misunderstood that. I apologize. The insurance company was one of their complaints, I think, was we only had 1 quote. So I think if we were to get 2 more quotes and they were all in the same ballpark, you'd have a stronger case to say to them, hey, this is the value of the work. It's not, they were quibbling about various people.
But they only asked for 1 quote, so that's all we have.
I thought the comments they gave back indicated they were looking for more quotes.
What's that?
I thought the comments that they sent back suggested they were looking for more quotes.
I guess, yeah, they offered that as an option, so it brings the price down. But, initially, they only asked for the 1 quote.
Well, I think they were quibbling about some of the costs that were included in that quote. And if we show that was, in fact, consistent with the marketplace, you'd have a stronger case. Now, if that check is, check has not been cut yet, I think that might be worth an exercise.
My neighbor, who just had substantial damage, says she always uses a broker in getting insurance, because then they can advocate for you with the insurance company that's actually providing the insurance. Has Rose and Kiernan been of any help?
They have. They've actually been as much help as they can. But like I said, the insurance company isn't really budging on this.
So,
Actually, they were helpful in getting this thing along. I mean, I would go, a long time without hearing back from this guy. I mean, I don't know where the heck he was. A month later, he would get an email answering your email of a month ago. So they did a lot to kind of grease the skids here, but didn't help the price.
So the estimate's about 14,000, correct?
Yeah, I don't have the figures with me at all. I really.
And the deductible is about 2,500, which leaves 11,500, and you expect them to come through with 3,000 or 4,000. So that's a fairly
Like that.
big difference, and a fair amount of money that we would have to add in,
yeah.
Right.
where it might be worthwhile to get more.
Well, before I did the work, I was going to get another couple of quotes anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, that sounds good.
and the main thing too on that job is the floor. That's my main concern. Is to re-support that floor area.
Right.
So I can, we can get more quotes. We can also separate it out. Say, okay, quote the floor, and then quote the wainscoting work, which is mostly just decorative.
Well, insurance should cover, well, this all was damaged by the rain, it should all be covered. It's all part of the construction, so. Seems like you shouldn't have to break it up. But if you can keep us posted how that works out, I'll be interested in hearing how that plays out. Any thoughts or questions about Lansingburg in general? Okay. Is there anything else that we want to talk about today?
I don't know whether it's been mentioned that what I call the lock box, but I guess it's actually a Knox box, has arrived.
Yes. The Knox box is there. I contacted the fire department. And I talked to the guy. But actually, we have to get our own contractor. I thought, I've been had a little issue because Mangones doesn't do it. And I've got to have to find a contractor that can mount that thing on the ironwork, which we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So the fire department, just have a couple of specs. In other words, it has to be so high and so on. But other than that, they're fine with it. So all we're doing now is waiting for a contractor. It's kind of difficult not being in a building for a week and then meeting contractors. So it slows us down a little.
If you have the equipment, the components, and if you have the guidelines, what the fire department wants, maybe it's worth you and I taking a look at that together. Maybe it's something that we can take on, I could take on. Does that seem feasible, or does that seem like there's just no way that would be possible?
I don't know. You could take a look at it. It's got, like a backing. It's got holes. I don't know. I mean, yeah, if you want to take a look at it, you're more than welcome to do that. I think it would work on that iron work that we talked about. Just that I'm not 100% sure how to mount it. It's not a difficult job.
Well, let's schedule time to get together and see what we can do.
I will be back in the building on Monday.
Okay.
So yeah, if you want to stop by and take a look at it, maybe two heads are better than one on this one. Yeah, I hate to actually call a contractor in to do it.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Well, this is an offer, and then please thank me after the work is done and you have a chance to look at it. So let's.
Thank you for even making the offer. Yep.
1 o'clock Monday, might that work for you?
1 o'clock Monday?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay. Let's plan on at least getting together at 1 o'clock on Monday and taking a look at it.
I got about, I'm gonna have about 5 minutes. We have that election coming up Tuesday. But no problem.
And, you know, I don't want to take a lot of your time. If I could at least get the box, the instructions and whatever guidelines the fire department has. And then I could just poke around and look at it and figure out what next steps might be.
Yeah,
Speaking of the election on Tuesday, I've got it in my calendar, so that's a good thing. Okay, that's it. That's all I have. Does anyone else have anything else you want to add to the agenda?
Question, it's not, it's just to the folks here. It's not necessarily about the building committee. When we did, I put together the nepotism policy for our next meeting. Bob was at that meeting, right? Was Bob at that meeting?
I think so.
I think
Or
he
wasn't
was.
he?
I
I think he was. Sometimes the meetings all blend together in my head, but I think he was there. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I had a little blurb of the notes and the consensus we came to, and I just wanted to make sure I had the right people on it. So I was fairly certain he was there, but then I could have been remembering a previous time. So, okay. Thank you.
Okay, barring any further subject for today, I move that we call this meeting to an end, a close. Oh, meeting at the 4th. What is the next meeting would be on the, sorry. Calendar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That'd be the 23rd of October. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah. I think Joy has it in the Zoom meeting
I think
thing.
she does too.
Yep, sorry for the noise in the
Oh, no
background.
worries. The chirping birds, that noise, that's a lovely sound.
I will stop the recording.
Okay.